Natasha, hi.
Hi, Jeannie.
And welcome back. Natasha was just away. She went to Florida, Jupiter, right?
I did, yeah.
For the week.
Jupiter, Singer Island, Palm Beach. It was a great trip. Definitely feel refreshed and relaxed and,
I know.
back at it. When you return from a vacation, you almost are more stressed than before you left because you have so many things to catch up on.
You're like punished.
But I'm just
I always
easing
say you're
into
punished. I always
That's
call
right.
it, you go home, there's so much
I'm
laundry.
just easing in. This is the highlight of my day, doing our podcast so that we can reconnect and
reconnect, chill.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you just have to compartmentalize things in your brain. That's how you get through it.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I'll do it tonight. I'll do the laundry tonight.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're so happy to have you back. I'm happy to have you back. I missed you this week.
Yeah, welcome. It's been a while. And so today we want to talk about inflation. I mean, listen, it's everywhere. We hear it constantly. It's gas, it's food. It's like no matter what you do, something used to be $1.50 and now it's $4.99.
Look, everything in life is irony, right? First, we couldn't have any weddings because of what was going on with COVID, right? Now we're in a place where there's an abundance of weddings because of everything that we've held back the last 2 years. We're finally able to celebrate. But unfortunately, everything's $1.6 billion quadrillion now. I told my husband I feel like I need to ride my bike everywhere. It's just like impossible. It really is.
That's the best. Ride your bike, farm your own food.
I'm serious.
Just do some homesteading and life will be simple and beautiful and easy.
But it's hard today. It's hard to plan a wedding in general, financially, for many people. And I think now it's even more challenging. So Natasha found this awesome article written by Esther Lee. It was written on June 15th.
2022. It's from The Knot. So I know The Knot is like one of those major wedding planning go-tos, and they actually produce a lot of information.
Yeah.
So anytime you have an issue coming up with your wedding, Google it, and you have a very good chance that The Knot will have written not one but several articles on the subject, because this is what they do. They spend millions of dollars in marketing, and they gather data, they gather research, and they provide you with what couples are doing, trends, information of what to do, what not to, and stuff like that. So this particular article is all about inflation and how it's going to affect your wedding planning, but also ways around it. How can you be savvy and not get stuck with this huge wedding bill?
So Natasha and I are going to try to, just sort of, like contextualize this for you guys and go through it a bit. And again, at the end, we'll reference it again in case anybody's interested in reading it themselves. But it has a lot of really great information here that I think could be helpful.
That's exactly right. So, and here's another like really interesting thing. There's something happening right now called a wedding boom. Like back in the day, there was like the baby boomer generation.
Yeah.
This is it. There's literally a term for it, and it's called the wedding boom. So just like Jeannie was saying earlier, there was a lot of discouragement with weddings and large gatherings because of COVID. But here we are on the other side of this, and boom, everybody is getting married. Weddings are up in 2022 more than ever before. 2023 is filling up. We deal with it on a daily basis. We speak with our couples and they'll just say, oh, we were so happy to finally get a date. All of the good dates were booked. We're looking into 2024. I mean, we're talking over 2 years out in their planning. So this is just a trickle effect of everybody rescheduling, but then also everybody really valuing having a celebration and actually having their wedding come to life. So let's start with vendors. You booked your vendor, you booked your wedding, and you are starting with your budget, right? We'll circle back to budget, but you have a certain checklist of things to go through. Each vendor is also experiencing inflation. It's not just you with the gas pump and food increases and everything else with the trickle effect. It's your vendors too. They've had to give raises because their employees have requested it because of cost of living. They're having labor shortages, just having people show up and not call in sick or not. COVID is still going around, not contract COVID and call sick. So there's a lot of trickle effect happening with these vendors. Jeannie, we were talking about flowers earlier. There was a really like crazy thing happening in the flower industry. Did you let's talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's funny because I had spoken to a bride recently and she had said to me she's no longer using flowers for her wedding, just a little bit, but she's mostly having like candle centerpieces. And I said, "Oh, if you don't mind me asking, was it the price? Like what was the situation?" She said that they were charging her just for a little bit, like not the tall centerpieces, the ones that are like just the mini ones. I don't know how many tables, those things I know all add up, but almost 10 grand.
Wow.
And you made a point before, and we had read about it as well. What's the most popular flower that they look for when they're for the decor within their wedding? And we said roses, right?
So it says roses are nearly 75%, actually 75% of the world's most cut buds. So meaning they're already cut before they're shipped to you. They're not grown here. They
Mm-hmm.
come from South America.
Yep.
And what's happening is what happens if where you're sourcing your flowers from, a lot of them are from Ecuador specifically. What happens if they're having shipping delays? What happens if their workforce is behind or they're having weather issues and they're not producing the quality of roses that they typically do year by year? Now we're having to source from other places. One of the examples that was brought up was Europe. You go to Europe and now all of a sudden those roses are twice the cost. And there's a perfect example of supply and demand. There are a certain amount to go around, and so we're just going to hike up the prices to make the most that we can because our supply is smaller. Then it goes in beyond that. I mean, just the vases. I mean, they're having a hard time getting those gorgeous vases that you see that are so tall and slender and so that they don't obstruct the view as you're sitting across a table. They're having a hard time getting those. But my question is why aren't these being recycled? I mean, how many weddings? What are you doing with these vases? Why aren't these being recycled? And from all of the weddings in previous years, like, why are we still buying these?
It is a good question. And my sick mind, I just know they throw it out, whatever. Like, of course, I never questioned. No,
Right.
but you're right about that. That's so true.
Yeah.
And
So come on, florists. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you keep, hang on to them, but really hang on to them.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Nobody wants them after the fact. But then it goes into, it goes so deep. If you're Jewish and you have a huppah that is being built for you to get married under, you have the caging. You have the wood. There is lumber shortages. There is the people who build these for you. And let's say your labor is super short. So now you're having to get a freelancer to step in. And a freelancer is going to charge way more than your typical crew would charge that you have contracts with. So it's just like this trickle effect everywhere.
No, I was going to add to that and say something else that I didn't even realize myself was that there's now a shortage on champagne.
That's right.
That's crazy. And it's just been so incredibly difficult because of the increased demand and the low supply. They're actually getting bottles that are 4 times the size of the standard bottles of champagne. And obviously those bottles are a lot more expensive. And it leads to so many other challenges. But yeah, could you believe that? A shortage in
That's right.
champagne?
It's not a Costco situation where you're buying in bulk and then all of a sudden you get a price break. It's like the bigger the
Call my
champagne
husband.
bottle, like you go into
Costco.
Magnums and these Jeroboams, the bigger
Mhm.
they are, actually the more expensive they are because they are flashy and attention getting. But this is what some venues have had to do is if they can't secure cases and cases of your Veuve Clicquot or whatever it is you're looking for, they're going to go for these rarer bottles, but more available at this point, and spending more. They waste more. It's difficult to pour. It went into all of that. So there's a trickle thing. So the advice is if you are focusing so much on making these things that have nothing to do with marriage happen, then I think that you're pulling away from the whole reason that you're getting married in the first place. One thing I want to mention is I feel like we spend so much time on, just like Jeannie said, the perception, but we're thinking of other people's perception. Wow, they're going to talk about this. This was going to be
so
like the most beautiful event that they've attended. This is the most fun. We talk to couples all the time, and they'll say, number one to us was the food. We really wanted everybody to enjoy themselves. We really wanted everybody to have a great time. So we hired the best band in the business. But there are so many ways that you can impress your people. I mean, these are your people. You've invited them into the most important part of your life, the important day of your life. So don't forget about you and your future spouse. Rather than impressing people, it is not all about the Instagram photo and all about the Pinterest look. It's about how you made people feel, what they gathered from you and your marriage and you and your relationship. Those are the best weddings I've been to, where you walk out.
Oh my God, you're so right. While you were saying this, you know who I was thinking of right now?
Who?
Natalia and Paul. They're
100%.
I have to bring them up, guys, to our listeners. They are very, very dear friends and coworkers. And they're just like the best. And Natalia and Paul are like kind of like nerdy. I'm gonna say, Natalia, you know you are. I love
Yeah,
you,
like Star Wars junkies and Game of
Yes.
Thrones.
Yeah,
like
and,
they're
like,
totally
what
into
is
this
that?
whole
What's
fantasy
that?
world.
Yes. What was that they go to every year? You said you'd never go.
Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like,
You should see my face. Like I snarled.
I know. But listen, they had a Game of Thrones themed wedding. The point is, I'll never forget it. The love, the energy, it was totally them, right?
A
It was
reflection of them.
A reflection of them and just everything about them. That was one of my favorite weddings. And my friend
And I
Matt,
remember nothing about the food. I remember nothing about the music. I remember their love and energy and celebrating them, celebrating with everyone that was there.
It's so true.
And listen, to each his own, but to me, those are the best weddings that you leave with.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that. It's true. Very,
Yeah,
very true.
we should actually, like, on the website, we should source their link and connect it to this. That would be a really awesome thing to do.
Oh my God, good idea. And I love their trailer. It made me cry.
I know.
So much. It was just it was such a reality. It depicted, it was so real, you know?
It was so real.
A mirror image of what happened.
And they were
yeah.
resourceful. I mean, they had my husband did the officiating for them. They sourced a local place in Jersey City, not the typical wedding venue that people would go to. It was an old converted church.
Old church. It was so cool.
Yeah.
It
Like
was,
they paid for the wedding
so them.
on their own and they made it happen. And it was really
Amazing.
a perfect example of like not having a huge budget, but like nobody cared about budget.
No one cared. No, truly no one
Going.
cared. Everyone had a blast. Everyone
It was
had a blast.
great.
It was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing. So,
Speaking of budgets, this is like number one, I think, pretty obvious.
That's right.
You got to figure it out. You have to figure out. It's a tough conversation to have, but how much money are you working with? And what are your family members contributing, if anything? So
yeah, talk to your partner about debt and anything involving finances before you embark on this. I mean, so many of my friends and I spoke about this. It was a big project of paying down any debt.
Yeah.
We all know it's difficult, but as consolidation, whatever you got to do, as much
that's
as
a great
you can,
point.
Yeah, as much as you can do, because life is not going to get cheaper afterwards. It's just going to be the same or more expensive, and it's not easy. So setting yourself up for as much success as you can, not to sound corny or cliche, but it's true. Like, why put all that extra on yourselves if you don't have to? So just having that conversation, is just sitting down with that person, is super important. And so not a lot of people do that.
And money isn't going anywhere. So
No,
you got
it's
to
not.
talk about the elephant in the room. And then one of the things I saw, which was such a good idea, is if you're about to put your wedding on a card, which a lot of people do because, hey, like who has 35, 45, 100 grand to just be like, here you go, let me pay for my wedding. So a lot of people put it on a card and then they use a lot of the gifts that they receive from the wedding to pay it off. Why not negotiate that interest rate? Why not grab a card that is a couple years, no interest? Or, maybe there's huge perks with the points that they're going to give you, and this helps pay for your honeymoon. Really, I know that there's a ton of information out there on this. We're no experts on this, but it exists, and that's something that you can look into as well.
They talked about like must-haves. Everybody wants everything, and I'm one of these people. That's true. But I think it helps in life. And again, it sets you up for the future. That I think, guys, you'll see more and more. I'm not schooling anybody, by the way. There's so many things that I buy every day that I have no business buying. Let me just say this right now. I am right there with everybody else. But I especially now having 2 kids, definitely not like I used to. I prioritize a lot of because I'm like forced to in a way, unless I'm going to be in tons of debt. Like that's my other option, which I don't want that one. So making a list with your partner, however you want to do it, and just talking about what is essential, what do I have to have for my wedding, what am I spending the most money on, what am I gonna allocate the least, things like that, I think is a way to help even now or anytime you're planning a wedding.
True. Maybe you cut the string quartet or the mariachi band during the cocktail hour.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
a nice touch, but if you're picking and choosing, what's your list of priority, and start to nix some of this stuff.
Yeah, close your eyes and pretend it's like 15 years from this point and think back and say, am I really going to regret that I didn't do that?
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's some things that I'm like, I probably didn't have to do that, when I think back on my wedding. And then there's things I'm like, I wish I actually would have done that instead, so different topic, but yeah, the must-haves, right?
Yeah, and that goes right along of like planning things for other people's, to impress other people. Like, just always keep you at the center. Don't forget your marriage, why you're doing this. It is a celebration. It is a party. You want everybody to have a fabulous time.
Mm-hmm.
But just question yourself, is this for me or is this for the purpose of impressing people?
Yeah, that's so true.
And I think that will help.
Who
with
is
the
this
list.
for? Yeah.
Circle it or cross it out as you go down that list.
That's exactly right.
Another thing that is so important is when you do work with vendors and you do book them, it's not always about going with the lowest price and having of what's included, and well, this guy came in $700 lower than the other guy. Think about trust. Do you trust these people? How are you going to feel? I mean, you're with them for the next year plus in your planning. Can you just have ease of mind that they're going to show up and do everything that they say they're going to do? Or is there something in the back of your mind going, what if, what they give me is not on their website? What if they can't get the food in time for our wedding and what we've ordered? Like, how do I know this? You ask the right questions so that you can develop that trust, and that will take the stress out as well.
Mm-hmm. It has to be worth it, and kind of evaluating what's worth spending the extra money on, because like you said, it's not just about to the dollar. Your brain can't literally be focused on 700, 1,500, not a penny over, because it's going to cost you emotionally if something's stressing you out.
And it also costs you more in the long run.
Well,
too.
Yes, that
How
too.
many brides do we talk to and they'll say, because Jeannie and I work specifically with like photography and videography. How many times do we talk to them and they're like, well, we booked our videographer, but then we have a friend that used them and their video came out and it's horrible. Or as people say up here, horrible. It's horrible. So, it's so horrible. And, and now they're panicking and they're scrambling and they can't get their deposit back. But they don't want to give them the other half of their money because they know that the work is crap. So trust who you're working with. Do your research. Do your homework. Ask the right questions. Ask each other. There's so many brides groups out there. Confer with each other and get some tips.
Yeah.
I always see on these brides groups, too, people will resell stuff. I mean, you can pick up some of those common items, those...
Yeah. I just want to kind of like, I guess, conclude this, a reflection of something I had read here. Let me try to quote it. Where was it? It was talking about believing in the wedding team that you've hired. And I felt like that was really important because it's just this empathy all around. Everyone's had like a rough list. What was it? 2.5, 3 years, right? Couples should also understand that most wedding businesses are small businesses. Your wedding day is often their livelihood. And most wedding vendors really want to make your big day come to life and give you exactly what you want. Vendors feel the frustration and annoyance of supply chain issues just as much as their couples. What really stood out to me? Your wedding day is often their livelihood. And I think that's important, especially with the industry that we're in. We talk about it all the time. It's equally as important for them to make your dreams come true, to make this day spectacular. And I think that alone should help couples have that trust too. You know what I mean? We talked about trust briefly, and it just rang a bell in my mind because I think about this a lot, even when I talk to my own clients, the connection there. Will the crew show up? Yeah, this is what they do for a living. This is their bread and butter. This is what they want to make happen for you. So
that's right. But it is important to keep answering those questions. What happens if somebody in the crew does get COVID? What happens if A, B, C, and D? I mean, the list of questions are out there that you can ask, and ask them, make sure that you feel good. Sometimes it's a gut thing. It's just a gut instinct, whether or not, and sometimes I meet people and they should be a friend of mine. I'll meet them. It's like, in my husband's circle or my circle, something. I just don't know what it is. I don't click with them. I don't want to put any additional effort into this relationship. So Or sometimes it doesn't make sense and you're like, I don't know what it is. I just really am like, I enjoy them. I want to see them more and become close with them.
Yeah.
So it's an energy thing. You'll feel it. This I thought was really cool, and I think that this can help us wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
It says when you look back on your wedding day,
Mm-hmm.
you'll want to say that you were happy with the results, not just the outcome, but the memories of planning the biggest event of your life. So be happy with the results, not just the outcome. So circling constantly back to the marriage and not just the day. Enjoy the process. Don't let obstacles become a dark cloud over what should be the happiest time in your life. This should be the happiest time. And if you can't get the perfect wedding gown because you didn't order it in time, or you can't get that Saturday in October because they're booked and you don't want to wait a year or two, just relax. Pick a Thursday. People are going to have just as much fun on a Thursday as they do on a Saturday. Like, just
true.
Think outside of the box a little bit. Relax.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you guys chose each other, so enjoy it.
Yep. Keep the focus on that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of So You're Engaged, Now What? If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen. It really helps.
If you'd like to reach out with any questions or suggestions, please email our team at podcast@livepicturestudios.com. This podcast is hosted by Jeannie Singari and Natasha Sherritt-Lacari.
It's produced by Jeannie, Natasha, Nicole Palmetti, and Christiana Krimmel. It's been edited by Crizelle Peniquito and Nicole Palmetti.
Artwork has been created by Joe Nunez, and music has been supplied by Ian Post and Artlist.io. And this podcast is brought to you by K-Vibe Studios.
Until next time, bye and happy planning.